Toprak Razgatlioglu ended Friday at COTA in 18th place. Fabio Quartararo, on the exact same Yamaha, was 15th. The gap between them, same bike, same tyres, same circuit, no excuses, was 0.336 seconds. That number is what this whole story is about. It is not a number that appeared because of a crash, or a setup mistake, or a difficult session. It is a number that has been following Toprak since the moment he arrived in MotoGP. Different circuits, different conditions, same pattern. And understanding what it means, and whether it ever closes, starts with what he said himself before a single lap had been turned at Austin. This is not a story about a rider struggling. It is a story about what happens when the best superbike rider in the world meets the thing he has never faced before. He arrived at COTA with unusual honesty about where his problems actually live. Not the bike, not the setup, the tyre. I'm still trying to get to know the tyres. On the bike side, things are already better. By now, I understand this MotoGP bike much more, and I'm also trying to change my riding style. But honestly, I'm a bit tired of talking about the bike. The issue isn't so much the bike anymore. The real problem is adapting to the tyres, not the machine. 3 races in, 3-time World Superbike champion, and the thing stopping him is not the prototype. It is the Michelin, which behaves in ways that Pirelli never did, rewards inputs he has not yet learned to make, and punishes the instincts he spent a decade building into muscle memory. The tyre does not respond to aggression the way he expects. It does not communicate the same signals at the limit. Every time he pushes to where his instincts tell him to push, the feedback is wrong. And building new instincts over the ones that won him 3 world championships is not a weekend job. This is not something you fix before Saturday. This is something that takes months. And the championship points are being handed out right now. He knows what the problem is. The honest question is how long the solution takes. But here is where the gap stops being about tyres and starts being about something more specific. In Brazil, Razgatlioglu made Q2 directly in conditions that favoured his instincts. Wet to dry, variable grip, unpredictable surface where aggression matters as much as tyre management. He said it himself at the time. There was no reason to get too excited because in those conditions, not all riders really pushed to the limit. Brazil was a false signal. Austin, dry, clean, fully representative, is the real one. And on that real benchmark, the gap is 0.336 seconds to a teammate. The shape of that gap is the most revealing detail. He described it himself after Brazil. When I was behind Fabio, I was doing really well in almost every corner. In some, I was even able to make up ground on him. But as soon as we opened the throttle, he always had a big advantage. He was always very effective under acceleration. Half the lap, he looks competitive. The other half, he disappears completely. Braking and corner entry, his historic superbike strength translates. Acceleration and corner exit, where Michelin tyre management determines everything, is where he loses it. At COTA, with its long back straight, heavy braking zones and fast exits from the technical first sector, the throttle is not a small portion of the lap. And MotoGP does not wait for anyone to catch up. Do you think Toprak's gap to Quartararo reflects a solvable tyre problem, or a deeper issue with riding style that takes much longer to fix? Drop your answer in the comments. Jorge Lorenzo saw this before the season even started. 3-time world champion at Yamaha, watching Toprak in pre-season testing. He's trying to ride, as I see in the corners, like a superbike. Braking so hard, moving the bike, making a V-line. Super extreme. A prototype bike is super stiff and needs to carry a lot of corner speed. And then, Lorenzo added the line that framed everything. Poor Toprak, who has come at Yamaha's worst moment with Michelin's, with a lot of electronics and aerodynamic wings that he doesn't know. It all came together to make it even harder for him to adapt. Poor Toprak. Not pity, recognition, from a man who has won 3 titles at Yamaha, who understands exactly what the machine demands and exactly what Toprak is being asked to unlearn. This is one of the most naturally talented motorcycle riders of the modern era, placed simultaneously into the hardest learning environment possible. New manufacturer, new tyre, new electronics, new aerodynamics. A prototype chassis philosophy that requires everything Superbike trained him away from. And a teammate who has been riding this exact package for years. Lorenzo called it Yamaha's worst moment, and Toprak arrived right in the middle of it. Toprak said it himself. Sometimes I also think that this year I'm learning so many things, from the tyres to the suspension, but next year everything will change again. It's not easy for me, because after so many years in Superbike, where we were doing very well, everything is more complicated here. Everything is more complicated. That is not a complaint. That is an honest assessment from a rider who dominated his previous world for a decade and is now starting from zero in a new one, while being measured against someone who has been here all along. And now, after everything he won, everything he built, everything Superbike taught him, the sport is asking him to start again. Pramac team director Gino Borsoi arrived at Austin with the corner entry direction from Brazil already on the bike. In Brazil, we found some positive direction, particularly on corner entry. It will be our responsibility as a team to support him in finding the right setup. The key question is whether it shows when the conditions are dry and there is nowhere to hide. Austin removes every variable that helped Toprak in Brazil. No wet, no chaos, just a dry track, 2 Yamahas, and a gap that needs explaining. Is the gap between Toprak and Quartararo something that closes naturally as he accumulates laps? Or is it a structural difference in how each rider uses the Michelin that requires a complete riding style change? And given that 2027 brings Pirelli tyres, the ones he has spent his entire career mastering, is it possible that this whole 2026 season is simply the price of admission for the year that actually suits him perfectly? Drop your answers in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe. There is a lot more of this coming, because Toprak Razgatlioglu is not struggling because he is not good enough. He is struggling because he is the best in the world at something this sport is asking him to forget. The instincts that won him 3 world championships are the same instincts that are costing him tenths every lap. And nobody, not his team, not Yamaha, not Toprak himself, yet knows exactly how long it takes to rewire that.